ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Just a minute, I shall arrange my watch so that I can know the time. 11:30 exactly. Okay, 11:30, so around up to 12:15 we can do. Now in Mulavidya, Nirasa, the point which we were discussing is a special topic. Light and darkness. Purvapakshi says light and darkness can coexist, one thing. As an illustration to prove that jnanam and ajnanam, knowledge and ignorance can coexist. This is Purvapakshi's stand. That point Vedantin is discussing elaborately. Now, earlier argument was that darkness is something other than light. It is not simply absence of light, but it can be known by the absence of light. Generally, we have heard a light illumines something, but here he talks of, Purvapakshi talks of absence of light illumining darkness. Very strange argument. This we have discussed already. Siddhanti told this is a very strange. First thing is, darkness is not yet proven to be a positive substance. It is simply absence of light. And you say absence of light illumines the darkness, which is a positive substance. Siddhanti says this is all ridiculous. This is total nonsense. So it is like imagining everything. It is just a wild imagination. After this argument, first thing is, there is no difference between absence and absence. All absence is simply blank. How can one blank illumine the another blank? Blank means there is nothing. When there is nothing, how can nothing can operate, can do something, can affect something? An absence, nothing, something, that means a nothing cannot affect it. Because nothing means there is nothing. So this is a ridiculous argument. So Siddhanti dismissed that argument. And abhavasya vyanjakatvam, second point is, which is unacceptable, is that an absence of light illumines. This is a strange thing. Light illumines we can understand, because that's how we find in our life. But he says absence of light, that is no light illumines. Absence of light illumines? What does it mean? How can an absence of light illumine something? A blank illumines. So this is also meaningless argument. So next point is kaschayam tama alokayor virodaha. What is the opposition between light and darkness? What is the nature of opposition? So Purvapakshi wants to say there is an opposition. Purvapakshi taking for granted that there is an opposition between light and darkness. First, he has been using darkness is opposite to light, therefore it is a positive substance. First thing is, what is the nature of darkness, and in what kind of opposition is it between them? What kind of opposition is there between them? He has to say clearly. He says, since there is an opposition, therefore darkness is a positive substance. See his argument. Since there is an opposition between light and darkness, therefore darkness is a positive substance. This is his argument. On this we are discussing kaschayam tama alokayor virodaha. What is the kind of opposition? What is the type of opposition between light and darkness? Kascha ayam tama alokayor virodaha. All these days I didn't have a problem. Now I have got a problem with my specs. I have to take out and then again use it and again take out, again wear. Wearing and taking out. Na tama alokayor virodaha yam avalambya, on account of which there is, you say, what is the nature of opposition between light and darkness, on account of which, based upon which you say bhavarupa avalambya aloka abhavya vyanjaniyata tamasaha sikriyate. Darkness is a positive substance. 2 points he says. Darkness is a positive substance and it is illumined by the absence of light. And it is illumined by the absence of light. So, what is the nature of opposition between light and darkness according to you? Okay? Based upon that opposition, you assume 2 things: that darkness is a positive substance, that it is illumined by the absence of light. Iti. Now, Siddhanti himself, see, in discussion it is like this. Siddhanti himself supplies some arguments to Purvapakshi, helps in discussing. What kind of opposition do you mean? Do you mean this is talking the first one? Which kind of opposition do you mean? Na saha anavasthaitvam. What is that opposition? That they cannot coexist. Is it this? Inability to coexist. Inability to coexist. Is this the nature of opposition between light and darkness? That they are unable to coexist. Because when one exists, other cannot exist. Where the darkness is, light cannot exist. Where the light is, darkness cannot exist. Do you mean, Siddhanti is asking. Siddhanti asking the Purvapakshi, do you mean the opposition between light and darkness is that they cannot coexist? The inability to coexist, is it the opposition you mean? But if you mean that opposition, it is not true. Because this is not the opposition you mean it. Because you have not accepted it. That they cannot coexist. We said it, Siddhanti said it. But you as a Purvapakshi, they can coexist. Light and darkness can coexist. This is the idea of Purvapakshi. Mulavidyavadi athava Purvapakshi told that light and darkness can coexist. If they can coexist, then what is the nature of opposition between light and darkness? Okay? What is the nature of opposition between light and darkness? Is it their inability to coexist? That is not the opposition you have in your mind, because you accept a totally opposite thing. Vaiparityena swikarat. Here the Swamiji says the sentence, na saha anavasthaitvam, because vaiparityena swikarat. You have accepted totally opposite to it. What is that? They do coexist. You accept, Purvapakshi accepts that light and darkness can coexist. Then what is the nature of opposition? Tell us. First opposition, he is taking different alternatives, different possibilities. Siddhanti is taking various possibilities and dismissing each of them. Which one Purvapakshi means? Which one Purvapakshi has in his mind? What kind of opposition Purvapakshi has in his mind? First one is that they cannot coexist, therefore there is an opposition. Is this the opposition you mean it? But it is not true. You don't have this in your mind, because according to you, Purvapakshi, light and darkness do coexist. Therefore this is not the opposition you have in your mind. What is that opposition? Inability to coexist. But in Siddhanti's case, inability to coexist is okay. Yes, that opposition we accept. Light and darkness. Darkness is absence of light. Therefore, where there is a light, there is no absence of light. Where there is an absence of light, there is no light. Therefore, their opposition between light and darkness is that they cannot coexist is very clear in case of Siddhanti. But in case of Purvapakshi, it is not true. Then you have to tell what kind of opposition you have in your mind when you told. What kind of opposition you have in your mind when you said that they are opposite to each other. Okay, I've been repeating so that some of the people can understand. Next point now. The next opposition, what is that? Napi bhava bhava rupatvam. One is presence, another is absence. That means one is an existence, another is non-existence. So existence, non-existence, this is opposition. Is this what you have in mind? No. This also is not what is in your mind because you have not accepted it. Panchapadika says this. Panchapadika says that they can coexist. Panchapadika openly says light and darkness can coexist. In fact, earlier also we have seen they can coexist. Therefore, the opposition is not of inability to coexist. Inability to coexist is opposition. They say they do coexist. So therefore, they have a different kind of opposition in their mind. Now the second alternative. Siddhanta is taking up one by one alternative. Which one is in your mind? Tell us. Napi bhava bhava rupatvam. One is present, one is existence, another is non-existent. Is this the kind of opposition you mean? No, because tadanangikarat, you have not accepted. Darkness is an absence of light, is not accepted by Purvapakshi, that is Panchapadika. Panchapadika, Vivarana, they have not accepted. Saha avasthana angikaradeva na tadatyanta abhava samanadikaranya rupopi virodaha. Atyanta abhava samanadikaranya, this is again a technical way of telling it means the same thing. Atyanta abhava, totally non-existent. Samanadikaranya, living in the same location. Living in the same location where it is totally absent. This is only a quibbling, a unnecessarily putting in a logical language. One is total absence, another is the same location existing in the location where it is totally absent. That is also impossible. Therefore, saha anavasthana angikaradeva na tadatyanta abhava samanadikaranya rupopi virodaha. This is the third type of viroda he means. What is the third type of viroda? Samanadikaranyam. Samanadikaranyam is a very peculiar concept in Sanskrit, because Sanskrit language alone can have such an idea. Because of that grammatical special nature of Sanskrit grammar, this is opposition. Not opposition, but there is an apposition in English. In English they call it. Samanadikaranyam means existing in the same location. Two two different adjectives existing in the same object, pertaining to the same object, they are called Samanadikaranyam. I'll give you an example how to say that. Shankaracharya's example, let us take a lotus which is pink lotus, a big lotus. Big and pink are two adjectives pertaining to the same lotus. Okay, or another example, he is a tall and very hefty man. Tall and hefty are two adjectives pertaining to the same person. So we call them, these two are existing in the common location, common object. Two adjectives pertaining to the common object are called Samanadikaranyam in Sanskrit. Okay, so two adjectives or two qualities pertaining to the same substance. So here, darkness and light. Abba, just a minute. My legs and hands have become, oh my God. Okay, I hope I can sit now. So Samanadikaranyam tadatyanta abhava Samanadikaranya rupopi virodaha. One is its total absence, total non-existence, and itself. What is this? Do they coexist? Do they pertain to the same entity, same object? Are they two qualities, two positions, two states? You can say two qualities or two states pertaining to the single entity. But light and darkness, do they pertain to the same entity? Like, I mean, do they have a Samanadikaranyam? Samanadikaranyam means, do they pertain to same entity? No, that is also not acceptable. Because Saha Avasthana Angikaradeva, because you accept them to coexist. Therefore, that they cannot pertain to the same entity, this also is not in your mind. The opposition means where one exists, the other will not be, other should not be able to exist. Where the light exists in a location, or when light pertains to one object, the other thing should not be able to pertain to it. Then only we call it opposition. But you say they do coexist. Then this Samanadikaranya Rupa opposition also. Tad Atyanta Abhava Samanadikaranya Rupopi Virodaha, this Viroda also is not what you mean. Technically, these are all, Swamiji culled these arguments from the Panchapadika, Vivarana, what is that, Tattvadipanam and Chitsuki, and such Vedantic texts, Vyakhyanakaras. All these arguments I am not able to trace exactly from which book, but each argument is found in some of the books. Therefore, he is touching point by point. Now, fourth argument, now 3 arguments are over. Now coming to the 4th argument. Nanu Badhya Badhaka Rupaha Virodo Asti. Now somebody is giving a suggestion. Why don't you accept one negates, another is negated? Negator, negated. That means destroyer, destroyed. Light destroys and the darkness gets destroyed. Light sublates, negates the darkness. So, this is the nature of opposition. One negates, another is negated. Can we say, he is suggesting only, can we say this is the nature of opposition between light and darkness? On account of which you have to say that darkness is a positive substance. This is the fourth kind of opposition which is taken for consideration. And Siddhanti says, Natarhi tayor yugapade katra sthitihi. If this is the 4th type of opposition, negator, negated, this opposition, you can't use it. This is not the opposition that exists in the Purvapakshi's mind. Because Purvapakshi says that they should coexist. But if negator, negated is the opposition between them, then as soon as the dark light comes, instantly darkness goes away, gets negated. One negates, another is, it's something like a negator, negated, killer, killed. So one comes, automatically the other one dies. So they cannot coexist. Now you are telling that there is an opposition between them. They coexist with an opposition between them. All this problem is, he wants to prove that darkness is a positive substance, which is an opposite substance to the light, and it is coexist with light. It is an opposite substance, and it must be able to coexist. Since it is an opposite substance, it is able to coexist. This is the argument of Purvapakshi. If it is an absence of light, darkness was simply absence of light, it cannot coexist. But Purvapakshi wants that darkness coexist with light. So, in order to coexist with light, for the darkness to coexist with light, darkness must be an alternative substance which is capable of coexisting with light. All this is just a wild speculation. That's why we find very difficult to understand. But the second chapter is full of this kind of arguments. If you want to listen to Mulavidya Nirasa, then you should have a lot of patience. From third chapter onwards, then there is an excellent Vedanta. Third and fourth chapter, Swamiji discusses beautifully entire Prakriya of Vedanta in third and fourth chapters. But there every point he talks according to your Anubhava. So there every topic is interesting, and you find that every moment a new revelation, new depth, new clarity of life comes. Because he is talking, he is unraveling, opening step by step into the probing into life. We are discussing life there, our experiences there. Here it is less of experience, more of speculation, more of wild imagination. That's why the second chapter is like this. So some points are slightly better. Okay, some deep sleep comes. There it is a little interesting, though he is trying to imagine wildly. Still it is somewhat interesting. Some of the, not that all second chapter is boring. Some places like here, a few 1 or 2 pages is boring. Afterwards, some points are interesting also. Okay, so the fourth type of opposition is that negator negated, sublator sublated. This could that be the fourth probable opposition? Siddhanti says no, because if that were the fourth negator negated were the opposition Purvapakshi meant, then they cannot coexist. As soon as the light comes, darkness gets negated. So, but he wants to say that darkness being opposite to light, it is capable, it is coexisting. Since it is an opposite substance, it is able to coexist with it. If it were simple absence, it cannot coexist. All his struggle is darkness is able to coexist with light. Therefore, darkness is some positive substance. Don't say it is simple absence. If it is simple absence, coexistence is impossible. If darkness were simple absence of light, coexistence would be impossible. But Purvapakshi wants to show that darkness coexists with light. To be able to coexist with light, it must be some positive substance, a substance something opposite to light, and another substance opposite to light, it lives with light. Okay. That is the point Purvapakshi is trying to, holding on to this argument, this idea he is holding on. He is desperately trying to prove his point. Desperately trying. Sachidananda Swamiji breaks into pieces. Every one of them breaks into pieces. So that his whole idea will go into pieces. It cannot stand. Okay, fourth argument is over. Coming to the fifth argument. Okay, astu tarhi paraspara tadatmya bhava virodaha. If it is too boring, I'll stop it. Okay, because this topic is such that we have to go small points. After this after this particular argument is over, I think the next page, then it becomes little interesting. So you should have a patience. Astu tarhi paraspara tadatmya abhava virodaha. Paraspara tadatmya. Mutual tadatmya is identity. Mutual identity viroda. Viroda means one cannot be identified as other. One cannot be identified as other. That one is neither that can be identified as this, nor this can be identified as that. That means each one's identity is separate. This is the fifth one. Do you mean this? This is the opposition because of which darkness is a positive substance? No. This is also not the opposition Purvapakshi has in his mind, because tadapi nashuddhyati. Siddhanti says even this kind of fifth kind of opposition also nashuddhyati. Shuddhyati means this is also not right, because ghatapatayorapi viroda prasakte. If this is the opposition between them, what is that? One cannot be identified with the other. That means each one has its own separate identities. You cannot miss one's identity. You cannot mistake one's identity as other. Or you cannot mix up one's identity with other's identity. If that inability to identify one as another, inability to identify light as a dark, seeing the light, can you say, yes, this is darkness? Can you ever say? Seeing the darkness, you say, yes, this is light. Can you identify darkness as a light and light as a darkness? You cannot. So do you mean this is the kind of opposition on account of which darkness is called a positive substance? No. Siddhanti says no, because this kind of opposition is obtained between a pot and cloth. Pot and a book, let us take. Pot and a book. Pot cannot be identified as a book, and book cannot be identified. Seeing the book, do you ever mistake that it is do you ever identify that, oh, this is a pot? Or seeing a pot, do you ever say, oh, this is the book? Book and pot are totally opposite to each other. So if you mean this is the no two objects, every object is separate. So no two objects can be identified as one as other. Okay? Therefore, if you mean this kind of opposition, that kind of opposition is obtained between pot and cloth also. A pot and a cloth. So ghatapatayorapi viroda prasakte. If you mean this kind of opposition, one cannot be identified as the other, therefore there is an opposition. This kind of opposition is what you meant, then this kind of opposition is present between any two objects. Any two objects. Isn't it? Like a table and a book. Book cannot be identified as a table, and table cannot be identified as a book. Therefore, this kind of opposition is present between any two objects. Why do you say of light and darkness alone? It is available anywhere. Therefore, viroda prasaktehe. Now next he argues, by tadatmyam I don't mean in that sense. By identity, tadatmyam means identification. By tadatmyam nanu tadatmyam nama jati vektoriva paraspara sambhedaha. Oh. Jati vektoriva paraspara sambhedaha. Now, identifying means, just a minute. It's making so much noise. Yeah, yes, gone. So, tadatmyam nama jati vektyoriva paraspara sambhedaha. Jati, a class. Vyakti, an individual. An individual and a class. You take anything. Every object has got a class, like a human being. An individual, a man or a woman, a person, and the class is a human class. class or species, whatever you call. Human species. It is a human species and he is a member of a species and that is a species. So this is a relationship. Nanu tadatmyam nama jati vyaktyorva paraspara samvedaha. Mutually identifying. An individual, a human individual can be easily identified with a human species, human jati, human class. Or a human class can be easily identified with a person. Seeing a individual, you can identify that he is a human, he belongs to human class. Or you take a dog, take an individual dog, you can say it belongs to a dog species. A dog jati, dog, class of a dog. And then seeing a class, you can easily identify, oh, this is a dog. So therefore, jati and vyakti in Sanskrit, an individual, member and also a class. This mutual sambhedaha, this mutual connection is called identification. Therefore, tadvadiha paraspara sambhedo nasambhavati iti yujyate nasambhavati iti yujyate eva virodaha. Purvapakshi says, similarly, the opposition of an individual and a class. An individual is opposite to class, class is an opposite to individual. See, he says. Therefore, that kind of opposition is not possible here. Tadvadiha paraspara samvedo nasambhavaditi. This kind of opposition is possible here. Because a class cannot be identified as an individual, individual cannot be identified as a class. This is what Purvapakshi says, but that's wrong. Because class and individual are not two, they are one only. But he says they cannot be identified with each other. Therefore, that is the opposition, I meant it. He says no. Nacha ghatapatayoriva tat prasaktiriti shankaniyam ishtasyaiva apadanat ishtamevedam no yad ghatapatayo. Just a minute. Ishtamevedam no yad ghatapatayo paraspara tadatmyam nasambhavati iti. Nacha ghatapatayorapi tat prasaktiriti shankaniyam. So, the next argument then. Ghatapatayorapi tat, such thing is possible. Ghatapata, both of them belong to one class, that the objects, they belong to the class of objects. So there also you can say that. He says no. Siddhanti says yes, that's what we mean. That's what we want. Ishtame vedam no yat ghatapatayoha paraspara tadatmyam nasambhavati. Pot cannot be identified as a cloth, cloth cannot be identified as a cloth, therefore there is an opposition between them. That is the opposition I want here. He says maivam. Siddhanti says maivam no, because light and darkness, are they members of the same species? Light and darkness, are they two members of the same species? Or one is a member, another is a species. Light is the species and darkness is a member of it. That you can't say. Because jati vyaktor bhede manabhavat. First thing is, jati and vyakti are not two things. In a member, individual member and a class. Class and member are not two things, which I have told in the beginning itself, first sentence. I mistook. That is Siddhanti talking. It is Purvapakshi talking. But Siddhanti says, a human class, a human member, human being are not two things. One cannot become the other, therefore they are opposite to each other. This is what Purvapakshi says. A human being doesn't become a human species. A human species doesn't become a human being. Therefore, there is an opposition between them. One doesn't become the other. These are all unnecessary speculation. In fact, human being is human species is human being. How do you distinguish? They are not two. Siddhanti says they are not two. Why do you unnecessarily create problem? Anything, dog is dog species. When you see a dog, you understand it's a dog species. When you know dog species, you see the dog. You understand a dog. So they are not separate. Jati vyaktor bhede mana bhavat. There is no evidence, there is no testimony to say that jati and vyakti, class and individual are two things. They are not two things. There is no question of opposition. Both are one only. And both can be identified with one another. Because first thing is they are not two. They are only two angle of looking. Two angle of looking. You are taking class means you are taking the all human beings, and individual means you are taking a given individual. That's all. It is only your angle of looking is different, but they are not two things. Individual and also species, they are not two things. They are only same thing. You are looking from two angles. Okay? Two aspects, let us say. You are looking from two aspects or two different angles, but both are same. Okay? Therefore, manabhavat jati vyaktor bhede manabhavat tan nirupadhina, just a minute, tan nirupanadhina nirupanavataha tadatmyasya durato apastatvat. Therefore, the question of their identifying, all that is unnecessary because both are one only. Ekameva vastu dravya guna kriya jati vyaktiyadi rupena bahuda vikalpate iti sthitihi. It is the jati. Jati means class, vyakti means individual, dravya and guna. Dravya and guna are not two separate substances. Same dravya looked from, it is like book and book's size of the book. The book and the size of the books, are they two separate objects opposite to each other? Let us take it. Book and the size of a book. Book and size of the book. You imagine size of the book apart from the book. Book apart from the size of the book, or size of the book apart from the book. They are the same. You are talking from two different angles. Book means a readable thing. Size of the book means physically perceptible form you are talking. So you are looking from two different angles. They are not two substances, no question of opposition. They are one substance only. Okay, therefore you can't give that as an example. Leave it. Tadevam nasti yushmakam tamaprakasha or viroda siddhihi. Since they are not two things, so that there is an opposition between them is a meaningless thing. Therefore, coming to the Swamiji has to bring these arguments because they have used Vyakyanakaras. The Sanskrit commentators have used these arguments. Therefore, Swamiji has to bring these arguments and refute them. Now, ultimately, Swamiji concludes, he says, Tadevam nasti. Therefore, according to you, the opposition between light and darkness is impossible according to you. If there were opposition, then they could prove that because opposition is impossible, one coexists with other. Tama prakasha yor viroda siddhihi nasti. Therefore, viroda is not possible. If viroda were possible, if opposition were possible, then you could think of darkness as another substance, additional substance. You have not established so far the opposition between them. Therefore, tasmat nayujjate aloka virodatvat aloka abhava vyanjaniyatvam. Therefore, aloka virodatvat, darkness is another substance, a positive substance, additional to light. Additional to light, alternative to light, but coexisting. Therefore, it is illumined by the absence of light. That again he says. It is an alternative, darkness is an alternative substance, but illumined by the absence of light. This is a strange argument. He says, Tasmat nayujjate. Your argument doesn't stand. Aloka bhava vyanjaniyatvam atayeva aloka bhava vyanjaniyataya tamasaha aloka nirapeksha chakshur vishayatvam yadapyuchyate tan nirastam. Therefore, the basic thing is that it is illumined by the absence of light itself is ridiculous, because to know anything, to see a form, you need light is necessary. Light is necessary to see a form. And the absence of light illumines the darkness. is ridiculous, because when the absence of light, there is no thing at all. Nothing is perceived. And he says, in the absence of light alone, darkness is perceived, because it is illumined by the absence of light. This is ridiculous. Anyway, I have given literal meaning. In the next class, I shall just give an overall picture of what he wants to say. I will give you in the next class. Tamasaha aloka nirapeksha chakshur vishayatvamiti yadapichyate tannirastam rupi pratyakshe, because to see any object having a form. Form means color, shape. To see any object having a form, light is necessary. Without light, no object having a form or a shape can be seen. Therefore, what you say is ridiculous. Evam rupavad abhavatva aloka abhavasyapi kevala chakshur vishayatvam na syat ghatabhavavat maivam abhavasya vishesha abhavat na abhavasya chakshur vishayatvam sambhavati abhavatvadeva. Even the abhavatvam, this is a ridiculous argument. Anyway, we will discuss this argument in the next class. Time is up. And we will conclude in the next class only. This argument of light and darkness, probably we will conclude in the next class. We will summarize today's talk, and then total vision of what he wants to say, Purvapakshi, and where he goes wrong, and ultimately we will conclude it. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.